We rocking and rolling. What's going on out there in social media world? This is Coach Clavon. Hey guys, I'm fired up and excited. I think we're on episode 15, coming from you live all over the world. I'm in Houston, Texas. Dan is in Utah. Shout out to Dion Murphy holding us down with the infrastructure and back office support. Hey guys, welcome to another amazing episode of Uncommon Men. This is Uncommon Mondays. We are fired up and excited. We got a great show for you tonight. Another uncommon gentleman coming to tell a story and give some testimonies. And hey, proof is in the pudding. We're bringing you uncommon experiences so you can turn your dreams into reality, so you can be inspired, so we can be in alignment. And this is a very exciting time. So guys, as we do every single week, I'm here to say hello to you. Please remember, if you're watching this broadcast, you're going to be inspired. Share it through the social media outlets. Leave comments. If you're watching us through our YouTube channel, subscribe, leave comments, and participate. Be a part of this conglomerate of males from 16 and above that are here to make a difference in your life and to talk about the uncommon movement. It never feels complete unless I got my partner by my side. I want to bring up a gentleman that we all know and love and have a tremendous amount of respect for, but a top visionary with this uncommon movement, Dan Putnam. Dan, what's going on, my brother?
Oh man, it's great. Everything's great, man. So excited to be here. So excited for the night, for the year, for life. Again, a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah. It's a good vibe. Dan, how's your 2024? Everybody gets so excited. New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions, all this intensity. January. Here we are, February. We're almost, man. We're about to close out the first quarter.
Yeah.
I want to know, how has the year been for you so far as it pertains to your goals and dreams and personal, business wise? How you feeling this year?
You know what? I feel fantastic, Clavon, and it hasn't always been that way. I've literally been so disappointed in myself, like the last 3 years. Not necessarily business wise. Business has been fine, but I've had very distinct goals. Starting in 2021, 2022, they were the same. 2023 were the same. That means failure. But again, as well as I do, one of my favorite sayings is, I win or I learn. And man, I'm tired of learning. I'm going back to the winning. It's way funner. And so I have a game plan. We talked about it, I think, a couple episodes ago. So I won't go into a lot of details tonight on it. We have some other things to do. But what was that? Maybe 4 episodes ago?
Yeah, it was you and I think I remember that.
Yeah. So I went into detail. I'm still doing the same thing, Clavon. For me, it's a lifestyle choice that I've made. Not going to vary. I'm pretty good. Like when I go all in, I normally get whatever I'm after. For some reason, I don't know. I felt like I was all in 2021. I started to have some great strides and getting close to my goals, and then just let it slip away. To me, so frustrating. There's no reason to have the same New Year's resolutions unless it's just one resolution. Just keep doing what I'm doing. That's the way I look. And I saw something that really fired me up, I think just yesterday. And it said, it only takes one good year to completely change your life. Think about that just for a second. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? That's correct. You can make a hell of a transformation mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, whenever you decide I'm going all in. Because who else decides, Clavon? If it's not up to you, who's the one making the decisions?
Facts.
We're exactly where we are from the decisions that we make day in and day out. Whatever it is the most consistent is what we reap.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a goal to lose weight, but my consistent activities are counterintuitive for that, I'm not going to lose weight. So, you know what I mean? It's just if I have a goal to make more money, and then my consistent activities are counterintuitive to that, I'm not going to make money. Again, it's not easy, but embrace that. That's what Uncommon is all about. It's about embracing the difficulty. Be glad that it's not easy. Because if it was easy, it would be a minimum wage type of a lifestyle.
Right.
Things that are easy are not going to have the same rewards as things that are difficult.
Right.
So embrace the difficulty and be glad, because the more difficult it gets, if you embrace it and you have the right mindset, you push harder. The people that don't embrace it, what do? They quit. So I literally use that to my advantage. I start thinking, you know what? This is when most people quit. This is when most people go back to their comfort zone. This is when most people start making excuses. And this is what keeps them being common. And again, I'm not saying that that's bad or good, but here's the bottom line. We have one goal with this Uncommon movement, and that is to help every male 16 and up have the opportunity to live the life that he's capable of. In order to do that, you first have to realize what you're capable of becoming. Second, you have to realize that it's your decision to get there or not. You can't be making excuses. You can't be blaming others. And then third, you need to find some mentors and some people that have done it, that have a system that you can follow, something to hold you accountable. And that's really what we're putting together. So I don't want to go too long before we bring on our special guest this evening. I think it's going to be one of our funner episodes, one of our more entertaining, exciting episodes. I've met a lot of people in my work life over the last 30 years. I've only met one, Kevin Goldberg. He's an incredible gentleman, very successful, very smart. Again, I think that it's 100% for sure. If you are going to look at the definition of uncommon, he's going to fit it perfectly. So, but like I've said, and we kind of say on every single episode, our goal here is to interview and get some nuggets of these uncommon men and some things that have helped them become successful. We know that success leaves clues. And we've already seen it just in these 15 episodes, the last almost 4 months now. We're seeing a lot of commonalities. And I guarantee you, if we had a podcast about the opposite, if we were interviewing unsuccessful people, we would see the same commonalities. Success isn't by accident. It's not by luck. There's certain things that all successful people do. Yeah. And we're just trying to get that point across so that you can finally get it in your head. The success is 100% up to you. And that's really what the goal is. But in order to become successful, in order to make those changes, there has to be opportunity that's present. Change comes through opportunity. So that's why so many people are always trying to, come to the United States. Their perception, and I'm not saying it's totally wrong, but their perception is what? Why do people want to come to the U.S., Clavon?
The land of opportunity.
The land of opportunity. So in their mind, they're thinking that where they're at, there's no opportunity. Is that true?
No.
It's only true if they accept it.
Right.
It's only true if they believe it, because there's people in all countries of the world that are creating tremendous success.
Exactly.
There's opportunities like we provide to the entire world. But if your mind thinks that, hey, I have no opportunity, guess what? You're right. You have no opportunity. So the first thing that people have to understand is it's their choice to become successful or not. And you have to take that responsibility that it is your choice. And if you're not successful, it's your fault. Right. That's something that people don't like to do. People that aren't successful, how many of them just say, hey, I had some bad breaks, this happened, that happened, but at the end of the day, I just didn't pull it off. I just didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Most of them are like, oh, this happened, that happened, this excuse. Hey, that's part of it. That's part of the journey. That's what I say. That's why it's difficult to be successful. It wouldn't be the top 1% if most people didn't get there. All we're trying to do is let people realize that you're the one that makes that decision, nobody else. But you have to find opportunity. I recommend finding mentors. I recommend having a proven system in place, and then give it all you got, and don't stop till you get what you came for. And that's really the way I view life. And so let's go ahead and get this thing rolling, and let's see what we can learn from Kevin tonight.
Let's do it. And so, guys, if you didn't get anything from that inspiration, remember, to be uncommon, it's your responsibility. You know, at the end of the day, there's a great system in place, but I like that, Dan, the spirit of responsibility is kind of when it comes down to when you look in the mirror. So tonight, guys, we have a gentleman, man. This guy is a musician. This gentleman is, like out of the box, has a mastery of astronomy, and he'll elaborate on that. I think it's very compelling. But he's also a strong investor on the stock market, cryptocurrencies, the global exchange. This gentleman's also a professional network marketer, but he's just really a bundle of energy, a bundle of joy, a great guy. I've gotten to know Kevin very shortly, but he's made an impact. I know him and Dan go way back. Without further ado, let's bring up to the platform Mr. Kevin Goldberg. Kevin, how you feeling?
How's it going? You guys just make me feel so good.
That's our job, buddy. I'm going to kick things off, and and then Dan is going to kind of steer the ship tonight. But, I always like to start off, Kevin, by just allowing you to give the world, man, some insight on your background. Where did you grow up? A little bit maybe about your parents, siblings, first job, or maybe what even inspired you to take the path of entrepreneurship that you have taken. But just some insight on Kevin, man. Just take it wherever you want to take it.
Man, I'm a weird one. I tell you what, I'm a study. I was homeschooled until junior high. And that was interesting. I mean, that makes some weird kids sometimes. Maybe that's what this is. I don't know. But I was really grateful because I was around a bunch of adults and people that were older than me. And so I just pushed myself as a young age. Grew up very poor, didn't really have money, one income, $18,000 a year for 4 kids. You can kind of figure that one out, one car. Like, I didn't have any favors given to me when I was growing up, I tell you what. And as a middle child, and then moved to Utah. I grew up in Missouri. I moved to Utah when I was like 13. Started the school system around 14. And man, it was odd. I was like, why is it that when he likes her, he ignores her? Why is it when she likes him, and so I just didn't understand it because I hadn't had friends before that, didn't do the people thing so much. And so I tried to understand it. And that's where the start of trying to understand people came from, was in that. And I'm trying to think of what else. I feel like that kind of answered the question. I got my first job, and nobody would hire anybody at 14 years old. I talked the lady at Mrs. Fields Cookies into hiring me in the mall. And she's like, we don't hire until 15. And I was like, I'll be your hardest worker. I'll show up on time. I pushed. She said no. I pushed some more. And eventually she's like, all right, already. And I got a job. And then when I turned 15, I quit and got a better job. And when I turned 16, I quit and got a better job. And I was like, man, jobs don't make enough money. So I always had something on the side. And my entrepreneurial dream started when I was 14. It's a funny story. There was I saved quarters randomly over a long weekend, and I got $1.25, and you put 5 quarters in, you get those gummy frogs that were green with the white on the back. And I was waiting in line. I like had to go across the other side of the school to get it out of the vending machine. And I'm waiting in line, and this girl cuts in front of the line, buys the last ones, and she starts eating them. And I'm like devastated. I wait all weekend. I approach her, and she's like, "Ew, why are you talking to me?" And I was like, "Well, I would buy those from you for $1.50. That's 25 cents more than you paid, and you ate some. I really want those." And she scuzzed me. Well, next class, her and her friends are in that class, and she's like, "Oh my God, do you have gum? Do you have gum? Do you have gum? Do you have gum? Do you have gum?" And somebody was like, "I have gum," and they gave it to her, and I was like, she shouldn't have that gum. And then it hit the light bulb. It was like, man, I should sell them gum and take everybody's quarters. Because back then it was 75 cents for a 20 ounce. And you pay with $1 and everybody had a quarter. So I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, would you be my investor? I think I could sell this gum, but I don't know how much it costs." So he did the details. We went to Sam's Club. I bought one of every pack. I owed my dad like $150. I sold each individual pack. It came out to 10 cents a pack, and I sold them for a quarter because it was 25 cents for 5 pieces. I sold out, and I became the kid in junior high that sold gum. When energy drinks first came out, I bought them and I sold them. So I had a side hustle always on top of the first job I had, but that was kind of that way. So.
Great, man. No, great story. Great story. What you picking up from that, Dan? I love it.
Yeah, you know what? It just I just think there's something in his spirit that wanted to be successful, wanted to make money. I don't really know what that is. Kevin, why did you do that? I mean, obviously you might think that that's just how everybody is, but it's not. You know, most people are not going to go and buy the gum at 10 cents and sell it for 25 cents. Most of them would do the exact opposite. That they would just go for convenience. You know, that you probably could sell it for 50 cents because it's more convenient than going and finding it at the store for 25 cents. You know what I mean? And most people would pay more, and it doesn't even cross people's mind to think of that. So is there anything, was it just growing up poor and saying, hey, if I want something cool, I'm going to have to earn the money somehow because my parents aren't going to have the money, or really what was it?
Like on a core level, I hated the toothpaste we had in our house. I hated the soap that we had in our house. I didn't understand why I had to dress like a poor person. I didn't understand why I didn't get nice shoes. I didn't understand why it was like that. And instead of being like, oh, poor me, I was like, well, they're not going to fix it. And if somebody's going to do it, it has to be me. And so I always had the eye for trying to make some money because I didn't like the circumstances that I was in. So I guess on a core level, I was disturbed and wanted to make change.
Yeah, you know what? I think that might be part of it. And I always kind of wonder why more people don't think that, because I was kind of the same way. My parents did fairly well. I wouldn't say that we were like the richest in the town or anything like that, but they had furniture businesses. I never went without. We had like boats, snowmobiles, multiple houses, those types of things. But at the same time, they wouldn't buy what you would call the name brand. They'd buy shoes, buy pants, buy clothes, those types of things. But if we wanted the nicest stuff, then we had to work and get it. And to me, a lot of that stuff wasn't too important. I didn't care much about my shoes or pants, so I wouldn't go work to get better shoes or pants. But bikes, that was kind of my first thing, was BMX racing and BMX freestyle. They would buy me a bike. So I could get a bike at like Kmart or Walmart or something like that. But they wouldn't go buy like a $700 Redline bike when you could get a bike back then probably for like, I don't even know if it was 700. It was probably like 200. I don't know what it was. But there was like Diamondback, Mongoose, GT, Redline. I remember I wanted this Redline RL20 freestyle bike because I got more into that. First was BMX, and then I moved to freestyle. And my dad was paying me. He worked in a steel yard. So my mom was running a furniture store. My dad was the manager of a place called Pacific Steel. Oh, yeah. And he gave us some jobs that we could do. And I don't remember exactly what it was. It was cutting something off of radiators that they sold, whether it's, something that was copper, or I don't remember exactly what was the valuable part of like the catalytic converters and different things like that. But it was basically whatever they had in this scrap, we're taking the copper or whatever out, and then they paid by the hour. And I figured out the exact number of hours that I needed to work. And I still remember my brothers and sisters still kind of tease me about it. Literally, like the day's like not even half over. I hit my hour. I'm like, okay, I'm good. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I hit the hours. And he's like, well, you're not going to finish the day? I said, no, I mean, you said I worked this much, I'll get the bike. And so, when can we go get the bike? And so I was always that type. I wasn't one that enjoyed, working like manual labor. And it's funny because both of my brothers, they're more manual labor, that they like to have a hard day's work and then see that they accomplish something. Like my brother's a contractor. Before that, he worked in the oil fields. So he's been very successful also, but completely different. I'm more like, I want to do a system. I want to get paid off of other people working. I don't want to be the one. Other people are more like, they like that physical hard work every day because they feel like they actually accomplish something. So I think everybody's just a little bit different. So I'm just curious in asking people, is that something that you were taught? Is that something, because I don't think I was taught it, because my parents always just kind of had the job, even though entrepreneurial, that was later on in life. Neither one of them, when they got married, they eloped when they were 17. So they grew up a difficult life, never had anything given to them, worked, but just like what Kevin said, hard work, pays off. I mean, how many people would try and get a job at 14? Person says, no, you got to be 15. And they're like, okay, I'll wait till I'm 15. That's like the 99%.
Right.
The 1% is like, no, I think I'm going to get this job. And then they just keep going until they got it. And that's one of the things that I've learned the maybe 10 years or so that I've known Kevin. He very rarely does not get what he puts his mind to.
And
Maybe
Kevin,
never.
never. Kevin, did you think you said you were like a middle child?
Yeah.
So did you see that in your older siblings or in your parents, like that analytical? Let me analyze. Now let me be proactive, and let me get mine. Like, did you see that trait, or was that just all instinctive coming up out of you?
My older brother, God rest his soul, he died in Iraq in 2003. But he was like a genius, a chess master, and that guy had an indomitable will. And so I guess I did model that a little bit. And BMX was it was a thing, and that was a driver for me, and it was a Schwinn Predator, and I did get the Schwinn Predator. So I wanted to relate to that.
Yeah.
For me,
You remember the show Rad? Did you ever see that, Kevin?
I was young, but yes.
Yeah. So I'm a bit older, but yeah, I remember all of that stuff. It's a different world. When I grew up, we basically woke up and the rule was be back by dark, and no cell phones, no nothing. It's just, and if you're not going to be back by dark, then they at least need to know where you're at. And so we all day long, we're just out making courses and seeing who could go around it the fastest. And then it got into quarter pipes and half pipes and getting more into the freestyle side of it. But yeah, I love that.
I feel that.
Awesome. Well, there's several things. One of the things that we really push, Kevin, with Uncommon is we have a goal to help all males move up into the top 1%. We focus on two main areas: health and fitness. And then the second one is finances, and specifically residual income. And then we feel that we show people how to get there through personal development and accountability. And then the last thing that we talk a little bit about is I just think human nature, I think all humans should do this, is give back. And I've had a thing for a long time, get rich, give back, different types of concepts. And here's why it's something that I'm so passionate about, Kevin, is I've thought so much about what is the definition of success. what is success? I think it's different to everybody. And, you know, I'll ask you that a little bit later, but what I've learned, it really has little to do with money. It has almost nothing to do with possessions, because being somebody that's, you know, been blessed enough to earn a decent amount of money, have what everybody thinks that they want, and then realizing that, yeah, I'm not saying that some of the things aren't cool. I'm not saying that some of the experiences aren't memorable and things that you'll remember your entire life. But at the end of the day, I have a definition of success, which is happiness. And as long as somebody's super happy, I think they're successful, because there's a lot of people that have millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars, and they're miserable.
It's true.
And so that's why health and fitness, we think just because, man, without your health, it's what else you got? You know, if you're just looking at your own assets as being a human being, take that health away, and man, you don't really have a lot of assets anymore. And then the reason we're so big on residual income instead of just income is I think your time as a human being is your most valuable asset, along with your health. So what possibly is more valuable than your health and your time? And so those are the things that we look at. But I do have some interesting questions for you before we get into that. Couple things just to kind of get your opinion. One, we were talking about astrology a little bit, and that's something that I never believed in. Still haven't gone like full in, but I've been around you enough that it's like, man, there's really something to this. So you've never met Clayvon before this call started, 5 minutes before. Don't know him. So let's go ahead and have you switch seats here a little bit and ask Clayvon maybe your favorite question. And let's see if we can learn a little bit about Clayvon tonight.
Clayvon,
what do you always ask people within your first 3 questions?
So I got on this call like 5 minutes before it started, and Clayvon will tell you what happened. Go ahead.
As soon as I jumped on, you asked me my birthday.
So when is that?
October
14th. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you lead the way. What you said after that did blow my mind, but October 14th.
And the richest guy I ever met in my life has Clayvon's birthday. Like, richest guy. The guy lives his bliss. He's out there loud and proud about what he's into. He has every car you could ever imagine. And he made his money residually as well. So it's like, man, Clayvon already stepped into it, you know? But gosh, you probably want me to run down his birthday a little bit. Like
just a little bit.
Pros and cons, a little bit about himself. I could do this so much better if I have parental birthdays, if you want to share. But, you know, I could just do it just straight off of you if you want. So
I'll follow your lead, buddy.
All right, we'll just do it. You put me on the spot. So October 14th is unique because it's smack dab in the middle of October. So it's like, okay, what are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Can I expose those? Is that okay? Or how much you want me to go into? I don't know.
No, I'm cool, man. I'm cool.
All right. Okay. So awkward, but so down. So I originally tried to prove astrology wrong like 22 years ago. I didn't believe in it. I thought it was a load of crap. It was like, oh, you're just going to say general things about people that are applicable to everyone. And you're putting people in a box and thinking everything about everybody doesn't work that way. That was my initial understanding.
Well,
but
Kevin, let's go all in. Let's go a little deeper. Clayvon was ready to play the game. Clayvon, what is your mom and dad's birthday?
Mom is September 1st. You want the year?
No, you're fine.
September 1st. Dad, December 15th.
Are they still together?
No, not the biological parents. No.
Okay, I was just curious. That reason I asked, because I'm like, that's a tumultuous relationship, so it makes sense. Both people are like horribly misunderstood, and it fights a lot. But so diving into Clavon, one of his greatest strengths is he can take something so complicated and break it down to 2 action steps, and then he can know exactly what to practice on to get 95% better than everybody at everything he ever puts his mind to in about 6 to 8 months. And then by the 10th month, for the life of him, he can't seem to drive to get that last 5%. He's like, man, I'm good enough. And he's like the master of so many things. He learns so much faster than everyone else. This is a guy who has like level 10 charisma, level 10 people skills. He's addicted to when someone falls in love with him. It's not like anything else. He just loves that moment that he's like, man, they love me. That's like his drug in the astrology. He's like, I love that. So love is the big drug. This is a guy who gets better with time. He's like a fine wine because he holds himself to a higher standard. He's one of the most thoughtful people. He puts everyone before him all the time. So it creates the greatest weakness in him. The greatest weakness is every 3 or 4 days, regardless. And I'm going to ask you about this, but every 3 or 4 days, it's almost like you fall into a hole of depression, feeling like, why me? Why does everybody like take me for granted and doesn't appreciate or see me? I do so much for other people. And it's like, if you looked, he has a subconscious mechanism embedded in him that when he's put too many people before him and his life has suffered, like his laundry might need to be done, his legs might need to be shaved if he does that. He might need like a clean, like what he called a lineup or something, like his laundry needs to be done. On that day, his subconscious shuts him off blindly. It's every 3 or 4 days. And then he's like powerless to it and then feels guilty. And I'm sure there's a wrestle of action overrides emotion to like plow through that, but it's a pattern that will permeate his life because he's literally so thoughtful and cares about other people that he puts himself last to everybody else. So his subconscious shuts him off like a breaker when the load on the power is too much, but then he feels guilty about inaction. And then he causes it to either have a second day and then he snaps out of it. But there's that day where he'll just ghost the world and he's just feeling bad. But in reality, action overrides emotion. And if he just took that day as an emotional trigger that says, hey, ooh, I probably need to do laundry, go get a haircut, and I'm gonna run some errands, and then that snaps him out of it. So that's like the hack to that specific birthday. And then the strengths are like insane. Like there's nothing he's not good at. He cares about people. He's got a huge heart. It's like he's a great talker. He's good at doing. He like knows, he remembers, he's thoughtful, he cares. Like people like, they could put on his tombstone, he actually cared. You know what I mean? Like, cause that's that birthday. Brilliant. Almost sometimes like too smart, but that would be the short rub on him.
So what is that, Clavon?
Did I do good?
That was pretty heavy.
Good or bad?
Are you a believer?
No, 100%. 100%. You know, the interesting thing was that the journey you described, I mean, this is live. this is live and archived.
I got some more interesting things we're going to get into here in a minute, Clavon. We're just getting started.
Yeah, I'm good. I would say that was phenomenally accurate. Yeah, that's all I can say, brother. That was strong.
Well, here's another thing, Kevin. Clavon is a single male, never married.
Yeah.
Who's his? Who should he be looking for?
April 12th.
April 12th. Who should he not be looking for?
So this is applicable to every single person watching this right now, regardless of when. There's a rule in this astrology thing, and it says the worst matches for you are the one right after you and the one right before you, and then every other one out of that, because there's a loser in the relationship. So someone gives more than someone takes and someone gets less. But if you go every other one, it's more congruent. It's almost like in astrology, there's a circle and 365 days will make close to a circle. So 6 months, your birthday is like a perfect match, but you have to factor those 5 days into the circle. So if he's a Libra, if you're just generalizing, an Aries woman would be everything he's not. And she looks at him just existing and breathing and talking and not trying to be anything more. She's falling in love with him because he's like everything she wishes she was. And then he helps her grow and she helps him grow. And it creates like a perfect circle. It's a powerful thing, which is ironic. Dan and you are almost a perfect circle. Just throwing it out there. I don't know if you knew that, but
so if we ever switch sides, that means it could be a match.
But if you ever switch sides and you're they, them, or you're trans or non-binary or you're gay or whatever, the astrology inverts and you work the best with the sign before you and the sign after you. Astrology explains that really well. They say there's a feminine and a masculine polarity that exists outside of gender. So you could be a guy that likes girls or a guy that likes guys, and it changes what works. It like inverts the astrology. And there's not enough information about that. And I've thought I should probably put that out there, but I guess it's out there now.
Well, I guess if we switch, we're not a good match that way.
Yeah,
But I don't think that either one of us are looking at that at this age.
Well, Kevin, this is good. Let's go. Aries, huh? Aries, I love it.
So now you know what to look for and what to stay away from. And I would literally take that seriously, Clavon. Just as many people as I've met with Kevin, and as much as I've learned in my own personal relationships, things like that, I would pay attention to it. So before we get into these other things, there's something else that I think is interesting that I know you have some knowledge on. And one of the things that one of the reasons we're doing this is I think that there's just men have different responsibilities. Would you agree with that, Kevin?
Oh my God.
Maybe more pressure. And just different. People ask all the time, like, well, why not a women's? Well, there's a lot of women's movements. Women do good about doing that. Women do kind of better about supporting women. And there's not enough of that in men. And I feel like we kind of, not to, make excuses for anything, but it's almost like we have a little bit of the card stacked against us because we have responsibilities. There's a lot of things that are happening with mental wellness. And I like to be progressive about it instead of talking about the result of what's happening. But I saw something the other day, and I think we even discussed a little bit on a call, Kevin, nothing to do with this. But now the number one cause of death under the age of 45 is suicide. It used to be under the age of 25. Now it's 45, and over 70% of them are male. And there's about 25x that actually try to commit suicide, meaning they attempt. So for every one that commits suicide, there's another 25 that have attempted. And the attempt is definitely a cry for something. So just because some of this, and it seems like there's more and more research with depression, the mindset, things like that. When would you think that somebody should look into something like psychedelics, whether it's mushrooms, DMT, ketamine? There's a lot of research with that there's even here in Utah all over. There's ketamine clinics, for instance, that you can go and have treatments, much more common with psilocybin and mushrooms, DMT, things like that. What do you think that plays in the role? Do you think it's something that everybody should experience just to kind of expand their mind? Do you think it's if people are looking for breakthroughs in life, if people are struggling with depression? What's your thoughts on that? Just because I have had some discussions with you and even some experiences with you with this, and it's something that I think is interesting. There's a lot more studies. There's a lot of documentaries on how helpful some of this is to people that are struggling.
So on both ends of that, I was one of those people that attempted. I was like 19. If you back up to my story, when I was 17 years old, my dad got cancer on Monday. My brother and best friend died in Iraq on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the roof in my house collapsed from water damage, destroyed my room, killed my fish and most of my possessions. And that same day, I found out I wasn't going to be able to graduate high school. And then when I went home, my girlfriend told me she was pregnant. I know that sounds like a lot. It all happened at once in 1 week. It was one of the hardest weeks of my life. And I ended up pushing through that. I got married. I moved out. I started my life, and I found out there was a lot of, let's just say there were paternity issues, and my marriage ended. So I found myself feeling like such a failure, and I made a valiant attempt. I told no one. I sat with my heaviness and sadness and I went for it. And I woke up a couple days later and I don't know why I'm still alive. I shouldn't be by any of those conventional standards. And from that day forward, I felt like I want to make other people feel good because of how bad I feel. And that was a moment in my life that turned to me serving other people. And it's been that way ever since. And I very much am that way still to this day. And I can recall March 4th oh gosh, what year would that have been? 2005. That was the first time psilocybin entered my body. I had a heroic psilocybin experience. I'd always wanted to try that because I saw that movie Dumbo and I was like, you can't see things that aren't real. So I was interested in trying it for that purpose. And the first opportunity I had to get that, I tried it. And it was not what I expected. It was as if every single bad thing that ever happened to me in my entire life, any trauma I experienced, everything heavy, everything scary, everything bad, all the monsters in the closet, so to speak, they all came out with a deep backdrop of unconditional love, understanding, and the deepest of knowing. And that March 4th was the first day of the rest of my life. Within 2 weeks, I met a millionaire mentor that set the very course of my life. I ended up finding network marketing. I ended up retiring from conventional jobs all within that year. And I have not had a W-2 since. And that was over 20 years ago. And I'm like, I didn't consume psilocybin until, 12 years later. And I found myself in another really heavy, very trying place. And I went out to a desert. I found myself like lost. And I consumed another heroic dose of psilocybin in a tea. I saw the fabric of reality and I forgot who I was. Everybody watching this right now, if you have had a psychedelic experience, there's something you know that the rest of the population does not know. And nobody can ever take that from you. But if you never have experienced that, you don't know who you are and you're lost. I don't know how to explain it other than that. If you consume a heroic dose, and I should asterisk that, at least 5 grams of psilocybin mushrooms in a tea, the most profound way, you'll remember and then you'll know. And after you remember and you know like who you are, why you're here, where you're going, the fact that you are as powerful as you are, everything wants you to not realize how powerful you are and the way that this whole thing works. And in one night you could just know. So I had a friend who was at the edge of their life, suicide. And they came to me about suicide. And the conversation was of such where it was like somebody I deeply care about. And it was like, I basically bet my friend's life. They were like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm serious about it. This is what I was going to do. I just wanted to have the conversation with you before I go. I don't want you to try to talk me into it. I said, okay, that's fine. I believe suicide is a very courageous act if you're serious about it. But if you're going to end your life, then you got nothing to lose. You might as well just give me 6 hours and drink this tea. And they did. And it was the first day of the rest of their life. I have taken hundreds of people through that experience who have been through some of the worst conditions in reality. I have taken sex trafficking victims, people that have been brutally raped when they were young, PTSD victims that had been overseas in war numerous times in Iraq and Afghanistan. I have been with humanity in that space and that experience. And I'm like, it's not what it's sold to be. It just takes one time and you'll remember and you don't need to do it again. And then you'll know. And once you know, the world is your oyster and there's nothing you can't do. They don't want you to know how powerful you are. That's all. Sorry, that I get passionate about that.
I was just curious your thoughts on it because I know that you've known what about ketamine, DMT, and any of that? Do you any place for that, or you think that
they're all
mushrooms, or is it the same?
I've had them all. I've had 5-MeO DMT. I've had DMT. I've had peyote, ayahuasca, mescaline, 2CE, 2CB. I could just keep naming them. They're all mimicking what mushrooms are. Mushrooms are the only one that gives something to you. Everything else takes of yours. Mushrooms are different. How is it that you can crush up the powder of a mushroom put it in a capsule and take it and go about your day. And the whole entire day is one giant layer upon layer upon layer of synchronicity. How can that do that? It's like the internet of nature. It like connects the fabric of all things on all continents. And every once in a while it pops up these little USB drive button things. You can make a tea out of them and absorb all that information and connect into all that. There's so much more than we understand.
What would you recommend, like documentary, book, YouTube, influencer, anything like that, if somebody was just curious?
I just did a podcast with the guy. It's a psychedelic podcast. I was just on that about this topic, and they went in a bunch of detail about it. And Paul Stamets' work and Terence McKenna's work. Terence McKenna is probably my favorite. That guy's next level. But there's a whole bunch of things.
So Terence McKenna.
Terence McKenna. There's a book called Holy Shit, We're Alive. That's a great one. There's a bunch of documentaries on YouTube, on Netflix. So it's becoming more mainstream. It's definitely something that would give you a competitive advantage. I have friends that work in the intelligence world and friends that work in coding in the big tech world, and they swear by that. And anytime they encounter a major problem or resistance on like code or what they're doing, they find themselves having a microdose and consuming just a little psilocybin. All of them are mimicking psilocybin, but I guess what's popular with the youth now is lysergic acid. That stuff is a dangerous, dangerous road. I've had too many friends that have taken that once and been like kind of like perma-fried from one time. That is a substance to avoid. They are not in the same category. Avoid LSD. That is not something that should be in your body. That being said, psilocybin should, at least once.
I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, because it is becoming more known for the benefits. And to me, there's certain things that aren't even in the same category as what, like a street drug or something like that. We're talking about just something that grows naturally in nature. It's not something that's, made in a lab. It's not something that, has all these chemicals and things like that. So I'm definitely not advising for every single person. I'm just saying, hey, if you're struggling, do some research, and, it could be something that's helpful. Or if you're not struggling and you're just curious, do some research and see what it's all about.
Hey, Dan, let me just ask a quick question to Kevin. And I don't, you don't have to elaborate too much, Kevin. But one thing that you said, I think I comprehended. Is it almost like when people build up whatever they build up in life? There's always layers of trauma. There's trauma bonds. There's experiences, good or bad. You start to wear a mask. You start to live out the labels that society, put on you. So you got a lot of people who have not processed their pain and their trauma. They're living through it. Whatever the case may be. And when I heard you say, it's like you said to me, what I heard was, with the substance that you were recommending, it's like when you say you forget everything or you forget who you are, it's like losing all of that to start fresh. I can understand the therapy in that, just to let because I've never experienced any of that before. This is probably the most intense conversation I've ever heard on this level. and so what I'm trying to comprehend is, it's like, here you are feeling miserable and suicidal because of all this bondage over the years and decades. It just boom, climactic crash. And then the key to, it's like the reality, the reality is not the experiences that got you there. It's becoming aware of it, letting it all go. And this emptiness is where the truth is. Is that something like that?
It's as if you've been scared and running past the door because you thought you saw like a ghost in the closet. So you run past the door, run up the stairs all fast for your whole life. And then one day the door opens, the light turns on, and it was an overcoat draped over a vacuum cleaner. It's like wherever you go when you die, whatever happens after this, there are more dimensions we didn't realize exist. And as if all truth and all knowledge and all intelligence is accessible and available to you for about 3 to 4 hours. So every question you have is answered and you leave with a deep knowing. And then you're like, it's like, it'd be really hard to abuse that substance, because it's like there's a phone and you get to pick up and call wherever you came from. And then you get reminded, and then you'd have no need to call again. because you already know the message. It's like, I have no need to do that again because I know, and I'll never forget. And so what's the point of doing it again? And then here's the crazy part. Once you've experienced that state of reality, you can access it without a substance because
So
it was there the whole time.
Well, I'm passing this back to Dan, but I got to ask you something. So once you had the experience with this new understanding or consciousness, however you describe it, did you find yourself dealing with pain, mistakes, failure, and traumas differently?
It all happened that night, and then there was a deep understanding, and then 10 years passes and you find yourself back in that, like, who you were before again, and you like get back into the illusion, if you will. And then it's always great to have a refresher or a reminder.
So Kevin, could you explain what that is?
What do you mean?
Like you were saying, like you experienced all the pain and all of those things, but what did you learn from it?
Well, it was like,
you learned that it's just part of life. Like it's everything. It's nothing is lasts that long. Everything changes, or
it's like,
not to dwell on. What did you take from it or learn from it that you could just tell these people, say, hey, this is what I learned. You know what I mean?
It's like
less general, more specific.
Specifically, it's like, okay, if you were to have that experience, what would be the insight? Every single person I've taken through that experience has asked me the same question at some point in the experience without ever a suggestion from me. They ask, are we gods and did we forget? Literally, the question I've been asked the most from that experience. What have I gleaned or learned from it the most? If I distilled it down, 3 things. 1, we're not here that long. You're really not here that long. You're not taking it seriously. You're wasting your time. You don't realize, like, you're not here. Like, you spend your time looking in a piece of glass, but life is this. It's like all the stuff, all the money, all the power, all the things don't matter. What matters is like the soul and the moment. So if there, and then the last one, it's like what you were asking about, pains and traumas. They were all illuminated in a way where I'm like, these things that I experienced in my life were before me. Like, I was born into a pattern that was predetermined outside of me from who my parents, who their parents, and who their parents were. And a lot of that isn't me. A lot of my choices, and it's all 3 things. It's choices or decisions. It's loops from the choices, and the patterns that you're having in your life come from your beliefs and your choices. And there's like an algorithm. Like, I'm going to sound like a crazy person, okay? But I'm going to tell you something that is like so true. I saw the metaphysical new agey movement says your thoughts create things, your feelings create things. And it's like, nah, dude, here's my analogy. There's like a deer crossing sign and you're driving 5 miles per hour over the speed limit in your car. You're going and you see a deer crossing sign. Your mind or the thought creates a visual image in your brain. And it's me crashing into a deer. So I'm like, pause. All of a sudden, what did thought do? Thought is that feeling is like the reaction to the video I just watched in my brain. And then the beliefs have the ability to override. And so the first time I realized beliefs are more important than thoughts and feelings, because if I think about the deer crash and the feelings are panic, fight, or flight, you can see the visible effect in the reality in a nanosecond, because now my cortisol level changed, my heart's beating faster, adrenaline's pumping, my foot is over the brake, not the gas, and all of a sudden my awareness is tuned in looking for glowing green eyes of a deer. Thought and feeling affected the physical reality that much. But my belief is, well, I got this conference call I got to do later and I got to get home and I got no time for crashing into a deer. Beliefs override thought and feeling, and all that woo-woo talk says, oh, think and feel and you'll get what you want. Don't do anything. If you don't do anything, just think and meditate about it. That's not how it works. And then the other thing is, we don't create anything. We don't manifest anything. Everything's already there. Think of it like the radio. When I make a decision, it moves reality. If you were on psilocybin and somebody made a life-changing decision, light would emanate off Dan's being and shoot out across the horizon, and you'd see it go up over a mountain and back. And you'd be like, Dan, what did you just do? And Clavon would see the exact same thing, like, Dan, what'd you just do? And Dan would be like, I decided that this is the year that this happens. That moment I have seen thousands of times, to the point where my deepest belief is that those 3 things, your beliefs, override everything. Your decision is the exercise of your power. Think about a radio. You move the dial, it goes from country to rap to classical to country to rap to whatever. You didn't make the music. You didn't manifest the music. It was already there. All you did was decide. And think about decide. It comes from the word in Latin. The D and the E is to choose, and side comes from genocide, suicide, homicide, insecticide, to kill off. You're literally killing off all possibilities, and you're choosing something, and I'm watching the geometry of reality bend to your will because you made a decision. You decide something, you believe something, and then the last one is action. When you take action, for every action you make, the universe moves like 2 or 3 things because you stepped forward, and then you encounter resistance, and that's where like 90% of people quit. But what I have learned most in the last 60 days of being 38 years old and having life is when I plow through that resistance, the universe gives me 3-fold rewards for plowing through the resistance. But all the psilocybin in the world chalks up to those 3 things. If you've got traumas and undealt with pain, you'll not have them after that night. It'll just be done. You'll understand, you'll know, and you'll move forward. There's no need for anything after that. You get it. Now, if you have new ones, maybe, but it's actions, beliefs, and decisions. Those are your power exercises. If you're not doing those things, everything else is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. A good example of that also, Clavon, that you've probably experienced is when you're driving down the freeway and you see a police car. What do? Almost 100% of the time, you hit the brake, your heart beats, you look at what the speed is, how fast you was going, and maybe he wasn't even speeding, but it just causes that instant reaction, at least for me. But I talked to a lot of other people, and it's the same thing. It's like, man, having these police out there is dangerous because people panic for a second before they all of a sudden say, okay, I set my cruise control at 5 miles an hour over, I'm probably okay. But I'll have my cruise control set, a cop will pop up, and I'm like, oh shit, what do I got to do? It's just funny how our body is and how quick we panic when there's no need to panic. But that just comes like instantly, and then all of a sudden you have to like talk yourself over that ledge and be like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. And this is what we're going to do. So I love that, Kevin. I think that hopefully some people got some nuggets from that. And so now we're going to jump into the 5 core components of this uncommon movement that we really focus on. And some of these may not have ever played much of a role in your life. So if it's not, I'm not saying that these are like every single person that's successful focuses on these 5 things. I'm not saying that at all. We're just curious to ask the people, like just health and fitness. Is that anything that you think of, that you worry about, that you have a plan for? Do you have a morning routine, an evening routine, something like that you do just to try and stay? We're not talking about people being physique models and things like that, but we're talking about being able to move, being able to play with your kids, being able to play with your animals, being able to tie your shoes, you just the basic things. What do you think about health and fitness? Is that something that you think people need to focus on or if there is an advantage to focus on that to be more successful in life?
At the beginning of this call, y'all remarked at my energy. Y'all are like, this guy's got a lot of energy. And I'm like, if I don't work out, I don't have any. It's a thing. It's like, dude, the more you move, the more you have. And so like, I had this haunting thought 3 years ago. I hit 35 and I thought 15 years ago, I was 20. In 15 years, I'm going to be 50. I was like, it never matters as much as it does now what I do, because my peers are starting to age, because their habits are catching up with them. And so the change in me was like, dude, I don't care if I have a 6-pack or I'm the strongest dude or I'm the fastest dude or I'm like super flexible. It was like, I am making the decision to fall in love with the process of working out. And I'm going to do it every day because I'm going to love it. And that's literally as much as it is. And like, I'm the guy who tracks his macros and like doesn't miss a day and works out all the time. And I continue to get stronger and more flexible and more endurance, but none of those things are the goal. I just wanted to love working out and do it all the time. But it gives me energy and it gives me lifeblood and breath. So it's kind of like, it's the one thing I can control is that. And then I get my mood and my energy's better and my self-confidence is better. And when I look in the mirror, it's better. And it all stems from being cheated on, needing an escape and looking at all the escapes available and picking that one. I was like, I'm going to go work out because I don't feel good. And it changed the way I look and feel and everything. It's pretty great.
Do you think that it gives more opportunities? Does it open up more opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. And there's like, gosh, there's a statistic that says that it's statistically harder to have a six-pack, or statistically harder to have a six-pack than it is to make $1 million.
Way harder.
So it's like, if you could get a six-pack and you can control that, that shows that you have discipline. That shows that you have output, input. That shows that you value yourself. You have self-respect in so many things. And then you're like, well, if I could do that, I could be a millionaire. It's like, it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, we should probably all work on the fitness because that is so important. Yes, I agree with you. Your time is the most important resource. But dude, if you don't have your health, what good is it?
We kind of think they're equal, to be honest with you. The two most valuable assets as a human being, taking spirituality and family out of it, just as an individual. And my belief is your health and your time. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy either.
It's true.
And so one thing that I love about it, and I've not done well with this has been something that I've struggled with, and it's been so frustrating to me because many other things in life that, in my opinion, are more difficult or just as difficult, I've done better at than just staying in shape and losing fat and things like that. So I can definitely identify with people that struggle in that area. I didn't struggle my entire life, but I've struggled for quite some time, and it's so frustrating. And here's why. It's 100% on me. I have zero excuse.
That's true.
It's something like, if something goes wrong in business, I can maybe blame somebody and say, oh, because of this. Now, again, I'm talking for myself specifically. I do know that there's some people that have some health challenges and some things like that are difficult and cause situations. But I'm not that. I went and spent tens of thousands of dollars for all the physicals and blood work, and every single 3 months, all the blood work that you can do. And I basically realized I'm just making excuses. This is pathetic, and to me, it's so frustrating because it's like, man, there's nobody forcing me to be this way. And I don't feel like, again, I don't care if somebody's overweight or not. I don't care. I struggle with that, but so I don't want this to come out wrong is what I'm saying, Kevin. I don't want to be like, I'm better than that, because I don't want to put anybody down or anything. What's crazy for me is I've always felt good. I've had energy. I've done things. I haven't felt like I'm, fat and doing all this stuff. I mean, I'll look and I'll be like, yeah, I'm fat, but I haven't felt horrible. So, but I've also been like, man, this year is going to be the year, and then this year, and then this year, and then it's just it's crazy. But it is something that not just that, to me, it's like everything in life. You got to realize that it's our choices that are putting us in these situations. And so that it is what it is. But there's a couple of people that I follow on social media. Several of them all say the same thing that you kind of mentioned. One of them being like Andy Elliott, but then you also have like Andy Frisella, David Goggins. You have, all kinds of people. And they basically say, hey, if I see somebody like if I'm hiring and I see somebody walk in the door that's fit, I already know several things about that person.
That's true.
If I see somebody that's overweight, I already know several things about those people. Now I know, like me, I'm like, no, you don't, you have that perception. You think that, you don't know that, but because a lot of it is like, oh, they just sit on the couch all day and eat ice cream and chips. And it's like, no, I go to the gym pretty much every single day. There is something to do with something, but everybody can do better. And it's something that we're passionate about for the sole reason that it's once you lose that health, it is sometimes not possible to get back. So the simple decisions that people are making every single day can have a penalty that is more severe than you want to accept. And unfortunately, once that happens is when a lot of people start paying attention, and it gets to be too late. I liked what you said, that you turn 35 and you're like, man, 15 more years, I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50 in basically 4 more weeks. And I had the mindset that it's like, you know what? I feel like if Vegas put odds on, like if I'm going to live to be 100, I would say, yeah, I'm going to live to be 100. I just like life. I have things that go bad, but I'm a person that, I mean, I enjoy the moments, and I'm learning to enjoy the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, and push through it. So I've had in my mind, it's like, you know what? I've seen some of these people that are like 75 that still look pretty freaking good. If they're really taking care of themselves. I've seen some 80-year-olds that it's like, man, that guy's 80. Are you kidding me? And so I started to think, man, I'm going to be 50 in 4 weeks. I better start to pay attention. And another old business partner of mine said, the best way to stay in shape is to never get too far out of shape. And there's another thing that I said early on, which was, one good year can completely change your life. Almost no matter how out of shape you are, well, I'm talking even like 250 pounds overweight, they can pretty much get back to close to an ideal weight in 1 to 2 years.
It's true. Even
if you're 400 pounds overweight, which isn't a huge percentage of the population, you're talking about 1 to 2 years of focusing on healthier habits. And I've also seen something, I haven't been able to say if this is true, because I've eaten some fantastic food all over the world and I've really enjoyed it. But I have heard that saying that nothing tastes as good as being thin or being fit feels. And so
that's a good one.
I'm like, I don't know if you've been to the same restaurants as I have. Maybe you haven't traveled as much, but I mean, I've eaten some really good food that if I get fit enough, I guess I'll come back and say, you know what, that's true. But it is something that I think is important, and not just to look better and stuff. Just your kids are depending on it, your grandkids, hopefully your great grandkids, your spouses. You owe it to yourself and everybody that knows, loves, and cares about you to focus on that health and fitness. Because again, how many people have had family members or parents that haven't, and all of the expenses and the poor quality of life, not just for them, it affects the entire family. And so we think to be uncommon, and like you said, we have actually degrees of what we consider uncommon. It is just as uncommon, if not more, to be in good physical health and fitness as it is financially. So we put both of those together, and we rate them the same, meaning we have goals like, okay, this is what you need to be able to do for health and fitness. And now we get to finances. So finances, Kevin, we talk specifically about residual income. And the reason is, even if you can have a lot of ways to make money that depends on your time, you're not going to be able to be the person that you could be if you're having to go to work 60 to 80 hours a week. And there is zero jobs that I have seen that pay based on effort that don't require a lot of time and probably a higher amount of stress. And stress is probably the most difficult things on all relationships. Relationships with your kids, relationships with your significant others, all of those things. And it also is very detrimental to your health. So if you have a way to make residual income that can cover your lifestyle, and then you can spend all of the time doing what you love, I can tell you from experience, life is great. And I know you, Kevin, I don't know if you did it today. I'm thinking maybe not, because we had a call at 2 and moved it to 2:30 because you was getting a car serviced. But what do you do in the winter that a lot of people wish that they could do, that you do any day that you want?
I ski 5 to 6 days a week, or snowboard 5 to 6 days a week. I built my entire lifestyle around that. We don't work in the wintertime. We ski. That is the work. My daughter just got sponsored by my favorite company, and she skis maybe 225 days in a year. I usually only get 60 to 100 days. But I bring all my kids. I have 5 kids. That is like hands down my favorite thing. There's just something about conquering your own fear. In that moment, you're going about 55 miles per hour down a mountain on a half-inch piece of I don't even know what it's made out of. And you like get scared and you want to slow down. You have to mentally overcome that. You like lean into it, almost push off the mountain. Oh, that, or when you go off a cliff or a jump and you're in the air for 4 or 5 seconds, there's just a feeling that you can't get in anything else in this life. That's my favorite thing ever.
And I can tell you, Clavon, from working with Kevin for a while, when it gets to within a month of ski season, he starts saying, hey, we got to figure out something pretty quick. I got like another month before ski season starts. And then when it's coming to an end, the end of March, early April, then he starts thinking, okay, what's our game plan? What are we going to do to make some money? Because I need to get back to work in April. So
that's been the last 10 years of my life. Yes,
but
sir.
What does that feel like?
Oh my gosh, that's the point of living, is to have that bliss. And I just bought 2 acres, 7 minutes from that ski hill, building a 12,000 square foot house on that land. And I'm so excited because it's going to double the amount of days. Because right now it takes me 20 minutes to get there. Maybe 30, depends on how I drive. It's only going to be 7 minutes. So 1,000% going in that direction of my life.
And
awesome.
To ski every single day, how much did that cost you, actual money-wise? What did you spend on your season pass? I know you bought it early season.
Yeah, I buy it early season. I don't know, $1,000.
It's not expensive.
It's not expensive.
What's the expensive part?
Being able to go every day. Yeah, your time.
Almost anybody can afford to ski every single day in Utah, because at all the resorts you can get a pass for somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000. Maybe not all of them, but good resorts. Snow Basin is a great resort.
World class.
Beautiful. And so you spend $1,000 to ski up to 7 days a week through the ski season.
Wow.
And I try to get my money's worth. I want to get it to $10 a time. That's always the goal. There's a goal there.
And I've talked about this, about the residual income on several of these, Clavon. I like to golf. I've bought ski passes a lot. The last couple of years I haven't been going, but I do enjoy it. And I am going to one of these next season. I will.
Whatever. I've been trying to get you to go for years.
Right. But a few years before that, we were there like 4 days. That's 3 to 4 days a week, every week. I bought just the 5-day pass because I was like, I don't want to go, and there's a lot of people anyways. And that's one of the great things about like boating and things like that. I can go in the middle of the week when nobody's there. So when I used to boat all the time, like literally 3-4 days a week, golf pretty much every single day of the summer, and ski 3 or 4 days of the week in the winter, the only expensive part of all that was time. I mean, somebody that makes like $30,000 a year could easily do that if they had the time. And so I look at residual income as a multiplier.
Right.
It's like every dollar that I make residually is literally like at least 2 to 5 to 10 working. If you just look at lifestyle, like the type of life that you can live, what do gyms cost here in Utah? $10 to $30 a month for the nicest one.
For the good ones.
And nothing. You can work out every day for almost nothing. $1,000 a year to ski every day. If you like to fish, like a $10 or $20 fishing license per year. Golf, most of the golf courses around here are about like skiing, $1,500 a year for a pass. And then, I mean, what else do people want to do? It's time. So I know that you are doing a lot in real estate. Real estate is kind of 50-50. Some of it's residual, some of it's linear. I also know that you've done a lot with investing with one of your mentors that you've worked with. Do you mostly do, I know we've discussed it a little bit, is it mostly stock options or just straight up stock
Both.
options?
I do the stock market in the pre and post markets, and then I do the options trading for the first hour or two of the market on Mondays and Fridays because there's the most volatility on those days. And then I go skiing usually after. And then, I mean, that's my habit. I wake up, I trade, I get ready for the day. I made more money than most people make in a month with degrees and stuff. And then I just go about my day. And it's just, I have like two, if this podcast is to 16-year-old men
And
I have 3 massively impactful stories that are short. They were the most impactful things of my 38 years here that I could probably like plow really fast. I remember I was working at a restaurant. I was like 20. I made $500 a week working 6 shifts. I always work a double on Saturdays. And I remember I got into my first network marketing company. And I remember a guy was drawing circles on a whiteboard and he says, "So this is you." And I was like, "That's me?" And he goes, "You get 2 people. And if they get 2 people, then whatever sales they generate count as if you did them." And I remember like my jaw dropped because I thought of my friend Scotty. The guy we used to joke was Verizon. Guy was the network. He knew everybody. I thought, so if I got Scotty and he went and got everybody, would that count as if I got everybody? And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And my mind just ran wild. I didn't sleep that night. I thought everything, I was 20, everything for the 20 years of my life at the time, I'd work, I'd make money, I'd spend the money, and I'd have to work again. And someone's telling me that I can work once and continue to make money that kept coming in. I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? And I joined, I started doing it, and I still remember like that moment. It was a Saturday. I was working a double, and it was lunchtime. And I had all these missed calls and texts, and a guy who was in my thing had a guy on a Saturday he wanted me to meet. I was like, "Dude, I'm working. I can't do it. Call this guy above me." So he went to that guy's house. That guy got involved, brought a bunch of people to his house. They then had a meeting that night at that guy's house. And I had made $145 in tips from working the double shift. And when I got home and I logged into my like back office thing, I had made $825 and I wasn't even there. And here's the crazy part. The next month I got paid it again. And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." About 2 months later, I was making $800 a week in my side business and $500 a week working 6 days or 6 shifts, 5 with a double. And I was like, I can't be here anymore. It's not worth my time. And I remember I quit because it was an inconvenience to my business too many times. And I have not had a job since. That ruined me because I didn't know that was possible. And once you know it's possible to make money that comes in again, you're ruined because why would you work for somebody else when you could keep getting paid? That's dumb. Like, and if everybody's like, "Oh, that's a scam," it's like, no, you've been sold a scam and you've been coerced and now you're under duress. This feels like Stockholm syndrome. You should probably get therapy because you can make money that keeps coming in. The second story was very simple, very simple. I realized I had a pattern of the amount of money I was capable of making. And I didn't realize it had to do with like my upbringing and stuff. And I remember I got into a mess of debt. I was in a really negative financial place. It was the low of my adult life. I got married. We started a family. I was like, I want to buy a house. And so I buy my first house and I worked the hardest I'd ever worked at that time to get that house. I got the house. I made like $70,000 in 2 months at the time. And I got it all. I allocated it to pay the debt. I allocated it to catch up on things, to fund all the things. I did the big Costco trip, the grocery store. And then I'm like sitting in the patio of my brand new house and I look in my bank account and I have maybe like $400 in checking. And I started crying in my backyard alone. And I just felt like, how is it that no matter how hard I work in life, I just don't ever seem to have enough? I just barely get by. And this next part might be woo woo, because I don't know if you believe in a higher power, but I do. And I'm nothing without that higher power. And so, like, I went out and I looked up at the sky and I just asked from my soul. I was like, dude, I just want to have more than enough. And I can recall I saw a shooting star streak across the sky in that moment. And I can recall that was the last time in my life that I ever didn't have more than enough. From that point on, I always had more than enough. So that was the second most impactful. And then the last one, January 2021, I will never forget. I played a video game with a couple friends, and they were my online friends, and we all met up to go skiing. We're sitting in a gondola. I'm talking to them about trading stock. It's a Friday. And the market in Utah closes at 2:00. It was about 1:45 on a Friday. I made a $26,000 trade. I broke my rule. I shouldn't have traded more than about 10 grand, but I was puffing because my ego was trying to impress my friends. And I made the trade. I went down the gondola, one ski run. I got back in the gondola. It was 2:07. The market had closed. I was up $11,000 on that position. $11,000. I showed all my friends, and they're like, "Aren't you going to get out?" I was like, "I can't sell until Monday." On Monday, I woke up a little late, and that stock rallied. I took that account, and I made $168,000 on that trade with like less than $30,000. That was the most insane thing that ever happened to me in my adult life, because in that moment, I was playing with my friends, touching buttons on my phone, no manual labor. And it was January. I remember I went and I got my car taken care of. I got a haircut. I went and got a Jamba Juice. I went to a restaurant and I talked and interacted with all these people. And I just kept saying this in my head. I was like, these people are going to trade the next 3 and 4 years of their life, Monday through Friday. And that's like early nights, early mornings, like all that time for what I did yesterday. And that was the day that I never traded my time for money again, ever. Those are the 3 moments that were the most impactful financial, but still the residual income is the one that takes the cake because it still keeps coming in. You have to have so much money to buy a rental property to make a residual, but you could go talk to 50 or 100 people and they could buy a product they should be buying, and all of a sudden you're making the same money that a rental would. Do you know what I mean? It's that same, but yeah, I just answered it.
One thing that just because I know this on Kevin's personal life, that I just, to everybody know the type of person he is. What did you do with all of your toys like a year ago or 2 years ago? Toys meaning like what? Snowmobiles, razors, 4-wheelers,
all that stuff.
Truck.
Six ATVs, a diesel truck, an enclosed trailer, a camper trailer, all the other things. I sold everything when the market was high, and I bought cryptocurrency with it. I specifically bought one cryptocurrency called XRP. There's your nugget for this whole call. Was worth it because you just buy that and wait until summer of 25 and you just thank me then. That's all I'm saying. But I have been working for 2 years, like top ramen eating energy and just buying cryptocurrency like you would not believe.
Okay.
But it's kind of funny just because how many people literally go and sell all their toys, and he has other money, but he's like, no, I want to do life changing. And he's told me several times, and I've caught this, Kevin, that it's like we've had some conversations of some business that we're working on getting into together, and we do some other business together and stuff like that. And he's like, we better do this now because in like another year or two, I'm not gonna want to work with you guys.
It's honest. I'm going skiing, and
and then the everything's gonna come when Ripple hits his number, and then he bought enough that it's like I don't. When that happens, I'm not an asset to you guys anymore because you're not gonna find me. So let's make some money in this next year because after that. I'm good, but it's just anyways, Kevin, I love who you are as a human. I've seen you do some awesome things. What you said earlier, I've witnessed. that you truly are out to help others and including myself. And I'm like, no, Kevin, dude, I'm good. And I'm like, what do I keep doing that Kevin thinks I need this help? And I'm like, dude, I'm not a sad person. I'm a happy person. I'm good. Everything's not, perfect, but I've learned to embrace that. But I can tell you that there's an uncommon human being on this call tonight.
Yeah.
Couple more things that we'll go over. Maybe quickly, maybe not, probably quickly. But we feel health and fitness, residual income, those come through the next two things we're going to discuss. One of them is personal development, which includes mentors, self-education, books you've read, podcasts, just personal things that you've done and learned on your own through trial and error. What's your opinion on personal development? What recommendations would you give if there's any nuggets? You've already mentioned mentors that you've had, so I know you've had mentors. And I know you've seen documentaries and things like that. Any recommendations for 16, 20-year-old, 24-year-old, just somebody that's like said, man, I just can't keep doing this. I can't just keep struggling every single month and I'm not getting anywhere. I need something to change. And in order for that to happen, you have to change. That's the first thing that people have to realize. And a saying that I heard a while ago, and I just love, is nothing changes if nothing changes. And so the first thing, somebody needs to make that decision that you talked about earlier. They need to get that belief that you talked about earlier. They need to make that action plan that you talked about earlier. What's a starting point? Any book recommendations, people to follow on social media, YouTube videos, just anything that comes to mind?
In a world where the trap and the currency is your attention and the trap is social media and scrolling, and that's something that people are all going to do, you're sitting on an opportunity of a lifetime because you can curate your social media to add value to you. If you saw my social media, you would think it's so boring. It's all high finance and stocks and personal development and self-help. I'm just scrolling and I'm getting my cup filled. So
There's
that's
got to be some bikini girls in there a little bit.
None, not at all. It just keeps scrolling, and a lot of snowboarding though in there. That's like the bikini girls like the snowboarding instead. So much of that, and I go back in my life because I think, well, youth and things. I'm like, when I was young, I was like 18. The lady who did my hair, she's like, "There's a book you've got to read," and she gave it to me. And of all the books I've ever read in self-help, that to me still is the most impactful book. I read that book, and the book's concept is that you have a financial thermostat. So think of lottery winners. You make a certain amount, you lose a certain amount. Unless you're a millionaire, you're not going to be a millionaire. If you get $1 million, you just lose it. And it unpacks that idea and walks you through a whole thing with like Notebook. I doubled my income 3 times reading that book. That book was so impactful. It was called Secrets of the Millionaire's Mind. And then the guy who wrote the book 10 years later was in my living room speaking to one of my organizations years later. Talk about transcendence. And I met him, and then he had me recruit for his company. Like, dude, that was the guy that impacted me.
Is that T. Harv Eker?
T. Harv Eker was the guy. And then Tony Robbins was fantastic. So there's a book or an audio series he had called Get the Edge. If you listen to Get the Edge, you're like, oh, that's Kevin. Oh, that's Kevin. It's like, that's a really good one. But with regards to self-help and personal development, it's like, if you're not growing and you're not working on yourself, like, what's the point? What is the point of that? And like, you were talking about men, and this is a total tangent, but the man is so close to my heart. The man is so under attack. Everywhere I go, I can see the heaviness of a man that was sold a lie in his career, his marriage, and his overall life. And he's bearing this quiet burden of like he used to take a girl out to a date and she was happy at him. Now he pays for dinner and all the life needs, and she's always got a list of things and she's unhappy with him. He's not being fed in the way he needs to be fed because there's so much he's supposed to do. And the bar keeps raising for him. And it's like you see him quietly bearing it. And I wanted to raise a little boy because I thought if I raise a little boy, that would help me understand the man. And I realized that this be a man, be tough, and all that things, it's all designed to like affect our self-esteem so we don't believe in ourselves as much. And it's like we're quietly bearing this burden of like being sold a lie, and we need each other, and men always give each other crap and put each other down. But what so many men need is a hug and some love. And it's like, why not build the man up? So I am so grateful for what is happening here with Uncommon. And it's something that resonates so deeply because the man is under attack now more than ever. And what we need more than ever is men. And that parlays into the personal development question, because if you looked at my library, and I have quite a library, you would see that I have 3 times more books on leadership than anything else, any other topic put together. The world, especially the youth, need leadership as the skill more than anything. If you just double down on the focus of leadership, every one of the things we've talked about on tonight's call would show up in your life, because leadership is the skill set that if you level up at, you'll never be poor, you'll never be miserable, and the whole world will make logical sense, because leadership is the art that's under attack the most in men. And we need leaders now more than ever. And the only place leaders are taught now is like the military. So unless you're joining the military, you need to focus on leadership now more than you ever have to level up your manness. Seriously.
Kevin, let me ask you a quick question, buddy. With that being said, can you give us, I mean, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but maybe your 3 top nuggets of leadership? Like if you had to define leadership, what would be your 3 strongest characteristics?
Leadership, a definition of leadership. I love that quote that says, not all leaders are readers, but all readers. It's not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. That's just a quote. But leadership, it's like, how many times, okay, I go paintballing. Paintballing is like it's like a fun, guilty pleasure. I get like 10, 20 guys, and we go challenge a group of doomsday preppers that paintball religiously to a war. And it never ceases to amaze me that in a combat situation, no one leads. Everyone looks the other way. When there's someone at the side of the road, the bale of hay falls out of their truck and they need help, or somebody's stuck in the snow, no one ever stops. A leader stops. A leader helps. A leader gets out of the way. A leader leads. And when someone leads, people follow them. So the world has a lot of followers and a lot of people that are unsure. A leader is someone that has a knowing and a level of confidence that it's like they become immovable, and their will becomes indomitable. And that happens through the skill set of leadership. So like, what is leadership? It's this like deep, intangible thing that if you don't know, you got to read about it.
And one of the things that I love that I always think about leaders, the other thing that you mentioned, you have leaders and then what? Followers.
Followers.
So a leader is doing some action, or they have no followers, right? So what I look at, what does a leader do? A leader does whatever needs to be done. So like if I'm building a business, and a leader is going to do more than he's asking all of his other people to do. So if I'm saying, hey, Kevin, you need to make 10 exposures per day, and I'm the leader, I better be making more than that. Right? And if I'm making way more than that, and I'm asking you to make 10, you're not going to be like, oh, this guy just wants to get rich off me. Do you know what I mean?
I did 13.
He just wants me to do all the work. Oh. So I think that my definition, if I'm looking at what is a leader, well, what's a follower looking for? Think about that.
A leader.
Like, what are you looking for? Like, what would be the best case scenario for you to become successful in life? And think of that. and then do it. And then
It's-
what's going to happen is you're going to become the leader and you're going to have followers. Most leaders don't ever have a trouble getting followers.
It's so interesting how I speak to the junior high and the high schools of 3 different counties in Utah. It's something I come in for college and career awareness, and they have me talk about the other path. So you got like your trade schools, your college people, and then the entrepreneurial path. So I speak on that, and I ask the same question every single year to the various classes I speak to. And I ask them, like, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? And whenever I get to the question, do you want to be an influencer? Every hand in the room goes up. That's the career that's idolized right now. And it's like, that's how far away from leadership humanity is, because they look up to a leader and have chosen to be a follower. And they're like, man, when I grow up, I want to be a leader. They just don't realize that that's what it is, but that's all an influencer is.
Yeah.
Influence, leadership is influence. It's literally influence and action. And it's like, okay, to lead a family if you want to father children, to lead a wife if you want to be a good husband, to lead an organization, to lead a life you'd be proud of when you look in the mirror. Every single thing there is in self-help, to me, stems from leadership. Leadership is by far the niche within the personal development space that isn't contrived, redundant. It's like, that's where it all starts and finishes. That's where the quotes come from.
I still think, just to emphasize even more, nobody needs to, the whole key to success is the 3 things that you mentioned.
It is.
Make the decision that you're going to be successful. Believe it, and then take action. That's going to become a leader. What do leaders do? They decide. Who wants to decide? Nobody wants to decide. Oh yeah? The leader wants to decide.
The leader decided already.
Yeah. So you have these guys going to play paintball. They're looking for somebody to decide what's our strategy. What do we do? Even if they have one, they don't want to say it because they don't want to be wrong. Because if they decide and it doesn't work out right, then they take all the blame. Guess what? A leader wants to take the blame even if it's not his fault.
It's true.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, he wants to take that last shot and he misses it. He's going to say, man, I should have made the shot. Sorry, guys. But the game wasn't that last second. The field goal kicker, he wants to kick. All the pressure's on him. They lose the game or they win the game. He wants that. Or he would be out of the NFL or out of college. I guarantee you, there's nobody that they would rather have kicking that ball than them, even if they miss it. And they're like, sorry, guys, I should have made that. Could have been a bad snap. Could have been a bad hole. Could have been a gust of wind. Could have been 100 things. And they're going to say, what? Sorry, guys, I let us down. That's leadership.
True.
Leaders make the decision. Leaders have the belief in themselves. Leaders take action. So really those 3 things that you already mentioned, shit, Clavon, maybe we just all need to do mushrooms because that's where he figured it out. Decision, belief, action.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's success. I'm going in the desert tomorrow.
Well, accountability is the other component to leadership.
Yeah. And so that's the 4th thing. Accountability. Where do you think that applies? There's obviously self-accountability. I think that most uncommon people do have a above average self-accountability. Like, I don't think they all have people that are holding them accountable and that are, calling on them. If they have really good friends, then they have people in their life that are holding them accountable. But what's your thoughts just on accountability, self-accountability, accountability partners, accountability to your spouse, to your kids? What's your thoughts there?
I had a brother die, and he used to say this thing all the time before he died. He'd say, a man has 2 things, his balls and his word. He'd say, you don't break them for anybody. And his big thing was his word. I later watched a movie and heard Al Pacino say that very line, so I think he stole it from him. I always heard it from my brother.
Scarface.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, Scarface. And I'm like, man, I heard that, and I thought, your word is everything. Without your word, you're nothing. You're nothing. You're a liar. You're a piece of shit. If you can't honor your word is everything. Your word's your brand, your word's everything. So if I say it, I got to do it. If I say it, I'm going to do it. Like that's just how it is. And so it's like, when I look at accountability, for example, I have a friend who's big in macros, an app where you scan all the food and weigh it and know what it is. So I told him, I was like, I'm going to do macros for like 3 months. Well, on the second month, I didn't need to weigh the food. I almost knew what the number was going to be. It taught me how to eat. It taught me nutrition. And so like this funny little, like I said I was going to do it, so now I got to do it, because that's what I want to be remembered for. You say you're going to do something, you do it. Like your word is everything. And so for me, my accountability is like with myself. It's like, dude, I don't want to dishonor my word. If I said I was going to do it, I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do a call on Sundays. I have not missed that call, even if I've been the only one on it. It's been over 2 years, I think. I haven't missed a call. It's like, it's a Sunday. It's like Super Bowl Sunday. There's nobody on. It was Christmas on a Sunday. It doesn't matter. I said I'd do it. I do it. I'm accountable to myself because I don't want to look in the mirror and not see what I like, not like what I see. So for me, it's like, yeah, you could be accountable to somebody else, but I mean, do you really have to do that? Or can you just be like a man of your word? Like, can you just honor your word? Like you say you're going to the gym, then go to the gym. Like it all starts with your word. And if you don't have your word, you don't have a bond. If you don't have your word, you got nothing. You're not trustworthy. And you will have no self-esteem. You will not have a self-image that's positive. You will not like yourself if you're dishonest. It's just a thing. It's like you have to kill part of yourself off. So to me, accountability is the word, and the word is everything. But that's me. That would be my sense on it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just ask real quick, Dan, really quick, Kevin. You know, I'm listening to you. If I was in a classroom and you were teaching about accountability, I'd be inspired, right? Because you just broke it down and what it means to you. But what if you had a team that you're leading, and you know, you're going beyond the philosophy of accountability or your stance on accountability, and you have people that are struggling with it? Would you teach them accountability by just sharing what you just shared? Or is there a technique you have to wake men up who understand the philosophy, understand what it means to you, but just like the consistency of going to the gym, they haven't mustered up the fabric to actually live out accountability? Do you have any ways of inspiring someone to be more accountable, like talking to them about their why, or just anything that can get them where you are? Because we all get it, but why are so many people not subscribing to it?
They say the quality of your life is the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. And they say the quality of your relationships is the questions you ask other people. And so if I was in a team or a group setting, to me, the ammunition I'd be using would be questions, because there's something powerful about a third party. And if you're talking accountability, there's not a more accountable thing to do than to put someone on blast in a group. So first off, one must lead by example. And if everyone there is like, hey, you're supposed to do this, and then you do it, and then it's like, oh, well, did you do yours? You do yours, you do yours. Then you don't even have to say anything because it speaks for itself. And it's like, well, why weren't you accountable? What did you miss? It's like everybody else did. All it takes is one time, and the feeling of guilt and shame that they'll experience that'll permeate through their consciousness. And they know that the next time that happens, so be it. And what is that very principle that creates the accountability is the principle of leadership. It's literally leadership, because that is what it means to hold someone accountable. It's like that they know that next time we get together, that same thing's going to happen and they're not going to come up short. It's that same thing. It's like, to me, like, if I got to motivate you to work out, you don't want it. I'm just going to ask you what you really want. Do you really want it? Because if you really want it, it would be what you live, eat, breathe, and sleep. Otherwise, you're full of crap. And that's about your word. That's nothing more than your word. That's your word. It's like, what do you really want? Because if you look at your life, what you want is what you choose consistently over and over and over. I don't care what your word is if your action doesn't match your word. And so it's like they always say, actions speak louder than words. Show me what you do and what you choose, 2 out of 3 of those things, and I'll show you what you believe. That's it. And it's like, okay, I see what you choose. I understand what you believe. I see what you do. What you really want is not that. It's that. And that's accountability. It's just pointing it out. All we are for other people, this is another mushroom truth, is a mirror. We are a mirror. That's all. We are a mirror. Half the time when we're talking to someone else, we're talking to ourselves. We're a mirror. And if you want to be good at accountability, you just step into the role of being a mirror and use questions as your ammunition.
That's awesome. Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've seen, and we talk about this quite a bit, Kevin. And I've said at like different meetings and stuff. Like, what would you think of somebody who's always lying, that's never on time, never doing what they say, always breaking promises to you? And you'd think, well, I wouldn't like that person. And it's like, well, then why do we continually do that to ourselves, including myself? Why do I continue to tell myself lie year after year after year? This is the year I'm going to get in shape, and then next year I say the same thing. In reality, that's pathetic. And the reason that I think this year is different is I've came to the conclusion how pathetic that is, and it's just not acceptable to me. And it's not going to happen. So other times I was accepting it and making excuses, and because I am too much stress, I travel too much. Okay, cry me a river. You know what I mean? What other excuses do you want to come up with? Because at the end of the day, it's exactly what you were saying. But most people, if you hold them accountable, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to quit and get out of the game that you're in with them.
That's true.
So you're not going to see them anymore, or they're going to do better and work and realize that they're lying to themselves, that they're admitting that they are not successful because of them. That's what they have to become accountable to. So you either have to admit that, you know what, I kind of do suck. And that's what I literally had to think that, you know what, I'm fooling myself. I have a shitty relationship with food. Everything had to do with, okay, something's good, go celebrate. Something sucks, okay, go feel better by eating food because it's not going to let you down. Something, you know, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What sounds good? Not what would be the most nutritious? What would be the best? What does the body need? What do I need to do to perform like a professional athlete would be thinking? You know what I mean? They're like, okay, my body needs to do this, so I need to eat this. I need to be able to perform at this level. I need to eat this so that my mind's clear. A business partner of mine named Dr. Kyle Smith, a very smart guy, and he got big into keto. That's something that just really never worked that much for me. And we're talking about another guy who's written some books and some things that I really liked, and he basically talks at how it's good, like if you're doing ketogenic diet, to have one day that you just eat horrible, like, and he'd say like one night, and the worse carbs the better, because there's certain things that carbs do, certain hormones and things like that the body really needs that come from carbs. But if you've deprived that from the body for like 4 or 5 days, and then you give it, and then you deprive it again, it doesn't have enough of them to store it as fat. And he said that he doesn't disagree with that, but he never did it because he just he couldn't decide what day he wants to feel like crap. You know what I mean? Because he started eating better and focusing on things, and then he realized that he didn't feel as good as he thought he felt. And so he's like, man, I would go eat all that, but I know the price I'm going to pay, and I just can't decide what day I want to feel crappy. So I just don't do it. But it's just interesting. And I kind of think that is where accountability finally snaps in, when you're finally ready to take full responsibility for the position that you're in. If you're not ready to do that, then you're not accountable. And the chances of you being successful, I always say there's one chance, and that's going to be luck. There's always something lucky. They win the lottery. But what usually happens if they don't have the right mindset, if they don't have the right education, what do most people that win the lottery end up doing?
Being poor.
Going broke. What do a lot of professional athletes that make all this money and stuff like that end up? They end up being broke because they haven't had the personal development that it takes to go along with it. And guess what they all have? A bunch of excuses. Whose fault was it that the lottery winner went broke? In his mind.
Somebody else.
It's everybody else's fault. I got bad advice from a financial advisor. I helped my family with all this stuff, and everybody took advantage of me. You know what I mean? It's just, it's what it is. So accountability is really the only accountability that matters is accountability to yourself. But as human beings, we're kind of wired, most of us similarly, that we don't like to let other people down.
That's true.
And so that's what Kevin was talking about. When you call them out on what they're doing, we'll let ourselves down all the time. We lie to ourselves all the time. We disrespect ourselves all the time. But they typically don't treat others nearly as bad as they treat themselves. If they did, that's a person that probably has no friends. But you don't really think about that. If you treated others the same exact way that you treat yourself, think of every lie you've told yourself. Think of all the negativity that you let brew in your mind constantly. If you treated somebody else like that, how many friends would you have? It makes no sense. So bottom line, quit doing it. Because most people are doing it. Last thing, most of if I was going to bet, I would have probably said this might be one of the longer podcasts. Most of our podcasts are a little over an hour. We're going on 2, but Joe Rogan always goes like 3 or more. So the nice thing is Clavon works and breaks these all out into snippets. So we'll get those all out to everybody that they'll be able to watch 2 hours, or they'll be able to watch 50 seconds or 2 minutes of a bunch of different parts. But I think that a lot of people hopefully got some good information. I know I did, because everything that I've got out of life is great and very frustrating, because it's just the simple fact that we're in our situation because of the decisions that we make. And you know what? So sometimes that's good. And then other times it's like, man, that's a lot of pressure. I don't want to be, can it be somebody else? Can't somebody just do something for me or something like that? And it's like, yeah, they can, but you probably will screw it up, because you're screwing up everything else in life. Yeah. And it's kind of rough to say, but I think of that. It's like, I believe, this is my belief. I believe that every single one of us wanted to go through this life to prove who he was. That's my belief. And again, what am I basing that on? I don't even know. It's just my belief. And I think that every one of us said, hey, go ahead and put me in the worst situation ever, and I'll show you who I am. I don't care. Throw me in any country, any disadvantage, and I'll win. I just think that's the confidence that we had. And then all of a sudden that memory is taken away. We forget who we are, what we're capable of. And next thing we know, it's like, holy shit, this is life. What is life? What in the world is it? What is it? You know what I mean? Well, why are we here? If it's not to show what we're capable of, then what is it? To me, nothing else makes sense. The only thing that makes sense to me is we are here to show who we are, mm-hmm. and to help others. Those are the things that I personally believe. I think we're here to show what is capable as a human being, what can happen, and to help others.
And Dan, what do you think about, is there a second part to that, where it's like we are here to show what we are, what we're capable of, to help others, and then I always hear, and then to give that give that credit to a higher power, as if the higher power wants to show its power through what you just said.
Yeah, I think that to me, I haven't really thought that, like, to give it to somebody else. I don't think that any of us can do anything on our own, because if you think about it, we all have 2 parents who have 2 parents who have 2 parents who have 2 parents who have 2 parents. I mean, the whole thing is, the farther back you go, it just gets to be 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 4,000 and then 8,000. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives had to connect perfectly for us to even exist. There's no way that it's all done on accident, that it just, somehow it just happened. But so 100%, I think that we're here to prove it to somebody. I don't think we're here to prove it to ourselves. So yeah, I think that it's somebody. But what if it's what Kevin was saying? What if we are here to prove it that we are who we say we are.
What if, hypothetically speaking, we were a deity split up into 7 or 8 billion people, and that little tiny bit, like the studies they did with the coral polyps, made a whole consciousness, and everything was made out of one thing, and your thought, feeling, and belief, decision, action, and belief had the ability to affect all physical matter, and the soul in your body is powering the regenerative bone mech with meat armor that you exist inside of, and that universal bioelectrical consciousness that you are a part of was maybe in some way that higher power experiencing itself through itself multidimensionally simultaneously in such a way that not only did you breathe electricity through your nose and it charged the cells or the feet of your body, brought in electricity, but on top of it, you could bend the fabric of space-time. Think about the godlike power that we possess. If I consume a banana, in 45 minutes, I turned that banana into a human being. If that's not the power of God, then I don't know what is. Why are we here? Drink a tea and you'll find out.
So, but anyways, the last thing, Kevin, is I do feel that we should give back. I think that's part of life. What we're doing right now, what you're doing is giving back of your most valuable asset, almost 2 hours of your time. If you break down, like if we're talking about the time that you was skiing and that was $168,000, 2 hours of that time can be very valuable. So we really do appreciate the 2 hours that you've spent with us. I hope that the viewers, again, this is in the web for everybody to see for the next unforeseeable future. And I truly do believe that it will impact some lives, help some people. I feel 1,000% that it's better to learn through other people's experience than your own experience. I think that in far too many cases, trial and error is just way overrated. Let's just take the winning formula and let's follow that. And so what we're doing here is a form of giving back that's just as valuable or more valuable than any other form. But what's your thoughts on just giving back? Is it something that you do? Do you have any process that you do it? Is it anything that you believe in? Or
if you know me or you've been around me, you'll see.
Well, I definitely know, but
I engage everyone, everywhere, and it's not ever about me. I try to bring a little spark to every soul that I encounter. I love the quote, and I feel like I live the quote that says, "Be who you needed when you were that age." And it's so true in my actions over time. That is like the highest and best is you get my time, my attention, and my focus, and that's like a big one. And then as far as like what can we do on the generation coming up? I try so hard to drop the little tidbits or nuggets. I feel like the sky is falling and the British are coming with the XRP thing, trying to help as many people as I can with that. I ask people about residual income everywhere I go, and I get so much resistance, and you'd think I'd stop. But I'm like, I get to give back because I don't know what soul might be praying or on their knees hoping for something. And if I open my mouth, maybe I could be the change in their world that made all the difference. I don't know. So on that level, yes, but it's in my thoughts, it's in my actions, it's in almost every aspect of my walk on the giving back. You look at Dan, for example. When Dan travels to a place, he does service. When he gets there, he rallies a bunch of people and he does service. He's doing so much good. He gets up. I drive by his office to go to the ski hill. And when he's in town, he's always there. He doesn't have to work. And he works harder than everyone that I know because he gives back. He does it with his actions. It's so demonstratable. I can't think of a better definition of leadership. It's in everything. He's the guy that quietly buys out all the masks pre-COVID mask time and drops them off for the first responders. He doesn't ever take credit for all the giving he does, and yet he gives so much. And it's like, man, I'm the guy who like stops to help you at the side of the road. I'm the guy that tows you out of the mud. I'm the guy that like will do that because it's in all the layers of action from top to bottom in life. And it's like, once the transcendence of residual hits to where the desired lifestyle, which I'm currently building the home of, happens, the irony is it's all coming together for me now anyway. So now what am I going to do with all this money? I guess I got to give it back. Let's find ways to give. And with the giving back, I met a really, he's kind of like my spirit animal for service. I never met someone that gave to the world more than this guy. He was really high up in the intelligence world. And he said the lowest form of contribution that you can give is to give somebody something, which is what you see all over kindness content. Yeah. He says that's a low vibration. He says solving the problem of someone makes a bigger impact. And he was explaining how, he says when he worked on a fishing boat and they take those nets, they put those big fishing nets out in the ocean. He says, what happens when they catch a dolphin or an endangered species? I was like, I don't know. They throw them back. He's like, no, it's inefficient. They grind it up and turn it into fish oil and they don't have to label it. He's like, that kills me inside. I love the animals of the ocean. He's like, disrupting the fish oil industry by creating hemp seed oil. Well, that would be a solution to a problem. And that would ultimately cause more money, which you then would have to give away. So you'd use that money to fund another solving of another problem. And he's explained that empowering someone else or solving a problem was a far greater way. And so that all comes back to the very thing. It's the quote that I live that says, if you want to change the world, raise good children. Now, if you're not having children or you haven't had children and you want to raise, like you want to do your best for humanity, then being the best you that you could be, leveling up in leadership and becoming abundant, the default resting state of reality is abundance. The water exists to nourish all things, takes nothing. The sky, the sun gives life to all things, takes nothing. The wind picks the fruit off the tree. One seed turns into millions of seeds and propagates for all these different things to eat. It's like I live in the land of Utah where there's a lot of religion here. And I hear guys who are like 70 talking about a time when they went on a mission for 2 years and they haven't done any selfless service for humanity or for the good of others. They're still running on fumes from 50 years ago. And it's like we are in alignment with our highest and best version of ourselves when we put others first, when we are giving to others. And so to give back is to be abundant. If you want to be abundant, and that's money, that's time, that's health, that's fitness, abundance comes from living abundantly. And the best way you can live abundantly is to step into giving back. And you can do that by picking up litter. And I'll finish with this, and I'm sorry I'm long-winded. I got the opportunity to be with a 40-year veteran of, he worked for the Environmental Protection Agency studying the impact of humans on ecosystems all across the United States and Canada. And I got a 14-minute gondola ride with him. And my first question to him was, what is the most impactful thing you've seen in your career? And he says, without skipping a beat, he goes, one person can make a huge difference. He says, the biggest fallacy I've seen in this life is that one person can't make a difference, so they never try. He's like, but all I've ever seen as a testament to my career is like one guy that decides to clean up litter on that hiker. One guy cleans up that beach. And because of that one guy, you get like turtles repopulating, you get flora and fauna and plants that weren't there for decades. He says, but the most powerful thing that I've ever seen is when one person rallies a few, who rallies a few, who rallies a few. He says, I have seen reforestation projects. I've seen entire climate zones change because a few got a few got a few. And I can't think of a more poetic way to end than that, because you have the ability to do that, and you can be the leader and you can be the man that you were born to be if you give back. And to give is to receive. Being rich isn't how much you get, it's how much you give. That is to be abundant. That is the default resting state of our reality. So right now you're using your God-given power of thought, feeling, belief, choices, actions to create resistance and put you out of alignment, and you're choosing scarcity. And I'm holding all of you accountable to that tonight or today as you watch this, because you're using your power to create scarcity. And if you live in a place of abundance where you're giving back, that's how you get rich.
I think that says it all, Clavon.
Hey, listen, I'm full. I'm full, man. I just left a 5-star restaurant, man, and had 2 desserts. Listen, that was super awesome. I will say something, Kevin. I was sitting here thinking, especially when you were sharing your philosophy just in the previous segment. And I was thinking about how I have been in contact with a lot of different religious, mentors and leaders and religious theologies. But I would consider myself more of a spiritually conscious, evolving man, right? And it amazes me how, spiritually, as I'm growing, I'm able to be conscious to everything you're dropping, as it pertains to, where you go when you drink the tea and, just your philosophies. My spiritual readings and learnings allow me to comprehend, right? So this whole concept of like your favorite word. And my favorite word is universe. And I always, like something about that word really touched me, right? And then, when we were breaking it down, unai means one, and verse can mean song, right? So you talked about like one song. And so we're all like individual notes, like vibrating harmoniously to create this one song of life, right?
Yes.
But I've always held that. And hearing you break down your thoughts on what this whole thing is about with God and everything, microcosm, macro, it was just like, wow, I'm really picking up what you've been dropping down, and then this podcast. I had no idea what to expect, but this is definitely one that I would go back and watch a couple times.
Oh, that means the world to me. I appreciate your words.
Yeah, I appreciate your experience and your vulnerability, your transparency, and really just sharing from your heart. Everybody tends to be a little egotistical and guarded, just naturally, but you just seem like the raw truth, like you're really living what you say. And I can appreciate that.
I shouldn't still be here. I've died like 4 times in this life. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I'm still here. So at the core of who I am, I'm really, truly just grateful to have another day. Truly.
Well, ministry is not just, religious. I think anything you advocate for, it becomes your ministry. And you're young, you have a tremendous amount of ministry. And I say that respectfully. Tremendous amount of ministry. You're going to help and heal a lot of people around the world. That's pretty obvious.
If you go skiing. I'm going to disappear.
I've never skied a day in my life. You know what I mean? That's probably some fear I'd have to get over. I think Bono and Christopher Reeves when I think about skiing. But, who knows? I get out to Utah with you guys and make it happen.
You come stay at my home. I'll teach you how to ski. You'll have a great time. You'll be fed. It'll be great. You just make it happen, and I'm there.
Might even get some tea there. Rumor
has
it. Get some.
Let's go.
Listen, Dan, as long as Dan is there with me, man, that's my little courage. My courage. And he drinks the tea, I'll drink the tea.
Here's one thing that I can just tell everybody who watches this. I remember early on in the podcast, he was kind of talking about that thermostat that just, I'd kind of say, what do you set your thermostat to in your house? Comfort, right? You don't set it a couple degrees too hot, a couple of degrees too low. Kevin's the one that when I build what I'm capable of, that I would give a lot of credit, because I've set my thermostat to my comfort. I'm comfortable. I haven't set it to my ability. And over the last year or so, a lot of discussions with Kevin, some long discussions and things like that. I've realized that I've said it, and here's what I've realized. And I don't want to take this wrong, because I try and I feel I'm a very humble person, but it's nothing's about me. That's what I've realized. I'm fine. I've set things for me and thinking that it's about me. It's not. So if I set it small, then I can't have the impact that I'm capable of. And that's what I've realized over the last, literally like the last year or so, because I've just been kind of like, man, life is great. Traveling with most of my friends are the people that I work with. I don't hire, like, I would say, like, I don't want any of them that they're watching to take anything wrong, but I don't hire the people that are maybe like the most qualified people to be working in their positions. It's more, I want to do things with the people that I like, the people that I trust. I've traveled the world with these guys. I've been on the best beaches. I've ate at the best restaurants. I've been in the nicest resorts. Big deal for me. Okay, that's cool. It's not about me. That's what I've realized. If I stay in that comfort, it's not what I'm capable of, and it's not what I'm about. And so that's what I've learned. And I literally learned it more through Kevin than anybody else.
Wow.
Because so much of life, I think it's like our goals for us. And I do what I do because I believe in providing opportunity for others, teaching others, helping others. I think that's important to me anyways. And I've had other opportunities that I could make good money, and I decided not to do them, not because I didn't want to make the money or anything, but it was just in things that I was like, oh, well, that's good for me. I'm more passionate about providing opportunity and helping others than I am about making money for myself. But with that being said, I feel like I'm capable of so much more, and providing so much more opportunity, helping so many more people. I agree with Kevin. I don't care. It's not my job to talk anybody into doing anything, but I do think it is my job to give them the opportunity to make decisions. And then if they do make the decision, to help show them the way and what they're capable of. So that's the only thing I wanted to end. Maybe it's not, I should just talk to Kevin personally on it instead of on a podcast, but I do want to thank you, Kevin, for what you do, people you help. And I'm a pretty confident person that what I'm capable of doing. And when people see it, they can come back here to see that, there's other people. It's always a team. It's people in your life that come across at the right time and say, hey, let's do it different.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And what did you say like 1,000 times? Let's not work with any bad people and
no bad people.
No bad people.
We have to be more, to get more, to help more. It's like there's a scripture, and I'm not like a religious person, but it was the one I never understood. It said, let your light so shine before men that they'll see your good works and glorify the universe, or something like that. And I was like, I never understood that one. But like when a man is truly standing in his power and like a leader, like it's visceral. And it's like, it's so palpable. And it's like, that's the greatest thing we can do for others. And then people can model it. And then also you help them up. It's like, be who you needed when you were that age. Like,
yeah, I love how you said that. That's the whole thing that I think in I've had so many discussions with people within the last year about this, that are struggling in different areas. Maybe it's a relationship. And I literally would say, become the type of person that would attract what you're looking to attract. And guess what? I don't know if you're going to get that exact girl that you're enthralled with right now, but here's what I guarantee you. You're going to have options. And that's really what it's about. Be that type of person that would attract what you want in your life. And like he was talking with astrology, he wanted to prove it wrong. Well, prove that wrong. work on yourself, become that type of person that we've talked about, make that decision, start to believe it, put together an action plan, find some mentors, try and prove that success trait wrong, and see what happens. So I'll leave it with that, Clayvon. Kevin, thanks so much. Appreciate you as a human. Appreciate your time. 2 hours, 12 minutes, 59 seconds.
Thank you for having me today.
So thanks so much. Clayvon, go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, man, that's it, man. Listen, we came, we saw, we conquered. We promised you guys every single Monday, Uncommon Men Mondays. We will bring you uncommon men from around the world who are living it as living examples of the type of success we're talking about. Hey guys, if you have watched this on our YouTube channel, please like, subscribe to the channel, be a part of the family, the conglomerate of powerful men. Share it if you're on the social media platforms. Do the same. Like, share, comment. Stay engaged with us, and we promise you we will be consistent, and we'll continue to just kick butt. You were awesome, Kevin. Thank you. Hey guys, this podcast this Monday night, episode 15, is officially over. You guys be great, and it is day one.